The United Nations highest court is set to decide on whether it has jurisdiction to hear a complaint against Myanmar for alleged genocide against its Rohingya minority. The Gambia has accused Myanmar of breaching the UN Genocide Convention over a crackdown in 2017. Myanmar, however, says that the International Court of Justice should dismiss the case. Well, our correspondent Rosie Burchard joins us live now from Brussels for more on this. Rosie, take us through what's happened here. The Gambia took the case against Myanmar to the ICJ about 3 years ago. Why did the nation do that? And what are the arguments that the ICJ is weighing at this point?
Well, as you said, this is all about a 2017 crackdown that saw thousands of people flee, mostly from the country's mainly Muslim Rohingya minority. Now, the Gambia brought this case alleging that Myanmar has violated the Genocide Convention. Now, Myanmar has not only denied those allegations of genocide, it is also, as you said, trying to get this case thrown out of the International Court of Justice entirely. Now, some of the arguments brought by Myanmar's lawyers include, for example, claims that the Gambia is acting as a proxy for the Organization for Islamic Cooperation. Therefore, it is not a state. It says it's not representing as a state, and the ICJ hears cases between countries. Secondly, there's also an allegation here that this, moving forward, is just it doesn't meet the right criteria for jurisdiction for the International Court of Justice. And that is what the ICJ is ruling on today. We should get a verdict in the next few hours whether or not this case can move forward. It has been complicated, Dawn, by the shift in power in Myanmar. This case is now being argued in the ICJ in The Hague by Myanmar's military. That's something which has also drawn criticism from some parts of the international community. This case we should hear more from in the next few hours of what lies ahead.
Rosie, were the ICJ to rule against Myanmar's objections, what would happen next?
Well, if the ICJ rules in favour of the Gambia or dismisses those objections brought by Myanmar, that means that this case can move forward, and it means that evidence against Myanmar will be aired. Evidence that the Gambia says includes allegations of mass killings, of torture. So those allegations would be heard before the ICJ, and Myanmar would also have its opportunity to rebut those allegations. It would then be up to judges in the International Court of Justice, the UN's top court, to decide whether or not the Genocide Convention has been breached. Now, that's something which could still take years, but we've certainly heard from campaigners that this case is an important one. Campaigners saying that this will allow, in the end, justice to be served one way or another, and that it gives victims the opportunity to share their stories. And we'll hear from both sides moving forward if, indeed, the ICJ takes on this case brought by the Gambia and moves forward, deciding whether or not the Genocide Convention has indeed been violated. And of course, these very grave accusations and allegations of atrocities here, this is what the court is dealing with.
All right, Rosie, thank you very much for that. Rosie Burchard there reporting from Brussels.